idea and the elevation and matriculation of being able to acquire the appropriate answers from your own intelligence, where you don't have to go outside of yourself. So we are not looking at systems where you go to an authority outside of you to tell you what you need to do, that there should be an inner knowingness. And all of us have had those moments where it's like, no, I don't want to eat those green beans. You know, you know, like, no, I can't, I don't have the teeth. Can't digest that, mommy. I don't want that.
When a man isn't made for you, your body will tell you first. This is a universal experience that women go through. When you're around him and you're getting headaches, your skin's breaking out, your stomach feels sick and you're not sure why, it's your body's first sign of saying he is not for you. His energy is wrecking yours. Get out.
Did you know the ads that you watch are actually hypnotizing you? If you've ever purchased something online and regretted it a few days later, it's because you were hypnotized when you ended up buying it. So next time you're about to buy something online, take a moment and just wait a day and see after that day if you really still want it.
In Lakesh and Veritas, oneness in truth, welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of The Sun, and this is Tarvars of The Sun, and we are talking about the idea of checking your decision making today. We're excited to bring this forward because this is the why behind why we want to make decisions that are in our best and highest interest at all times. So, someone has said to me, we'll begin with calling for the truth. Tarvars, will you take us into calling for the truth?
This is the first time we would have. All right, everyone. We encourage you to join us in this call for the truth, inviting the frequency of truth within your being. Shall we call forth the frequency of truth to come forward? Shall we call to see the truth in all that we see? Shall we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we call to speak the truth, calling forth the courage to speak the truth? Shall we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? So discernment, the necessity of checking before we do things, before we take action. I'm thinking about how there's so many things that I wish I would have checked prior to doing. I won't go into them. But you were about to go into an example of someone who was asking you, like, why? Well, if I may elaborate on it. So there was a woman who, she's a client, and she asked, why are you always checking? Why do you have to check? And for me, it's a no-brainer, but the disposition, it felt as if checking was something that was not necessary. It kind of alluded to the idea of there is no need for it because I already know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't think that her life reflected that. Just saying. But would you dive into this a little more? What did you gain from it?
Thank you for kind of setting this up, this idea that we are going through a world where it's fake news. Everything's fake news. People are doing fake things. People are manipulating us. People are moving us towards situations and circumstances that are not correct, and they're not in our best and highest interest. This is not new. Humanity is familiar with this idea of deceit, the idea of manipulation, the idea of a variety of people using media and other things to assert their agendas, using the structures of the brain to make us use our energy on their behalf. So decision making is very important. What I gained from the example of someone saying that, why do you always check, is this understanding that for some people, they have great clarity of their direction. They have lived a life where their experience guides them. And the best way for us to assess if that is the case is just to look at their life. If you look at your life and you think, all of my decisions have been stellar, everything I have decided has been right. All of my food decisions, all of my grocery decisions, all of my clothing, my shoes never hurt. My clothes are never too tight. I am healthy from my choices of food. So if you've done all that and you haven't needed to check, and there's a variety of different ways to check, but what we're really talking about today is the mechanics and the need, the spiritual, the why do we need to check? What are we overlooking when we think we don't have to check?
I want to add a little more for the viewers, because when we say check, they're probably wondering, check what? Check with who? And so at LaOta of the Sun, we teach a form of calibration. We're using kinesiology and even layers beyond and above that, but this idea of discernment by using the body's intelligence to check yes or no. Because sometimes the mind doesn't always know what's up. We have biases and different constructs that limit the information of what we're perceiving, and it can negatively influence our decision making, or it clouds and distorts it. So bypassing that, going to the body, or in the advanced method, working with your guidance, what we call a spiritual committee, we can discern and see what will happen ahead of time and navigate. So this idea, again, we're checking trajectories, looking ahead. Is it in my best interest to do this business deal? Is it in my best interest to date this person, to eat this food, to purchase this thing, to go over to my family members' houses, even though I know they're kind of crazy and we know how that ends up, right? Like, to check so that we can prevent an experience of suffering, and we can see, oh, I don't want to do that. I can learn from the information of what will be, not have to go through the experience of wasting time, energy, and get some suffering and trauma from the trial and error. So just wanted to give them a little back info on that.
All of this is true. There is, from humanity from ancient times has needed to do this because there has always been a need to make decisions appropriately and accurately so that you may obtain the highest opportunity in every situation. So there's a lot of ways to do that. So one of the things that we understand and we would like to share with you is that the body is established in truth from creation, which is different than like a Mattel doll that is not established from
plastic
divinity.
phthalates.
Yes, we are not made from that. We are designed and created, and so we were established in truth. So there is some clarity that the truth resides within us, and that it may be that we need to take a moment and sit and clear our thoughts and meditate and bring forth, or we may need to sit and remember, and when I did that last time, did my stomach hurt? When I met a person who looked just like that with the same name, how did that end up? What is happening? So we are encouraging just the idea of giving thought to the spiritual behind why you need to check before just impulsively doing things, or just doing them because someone triggers something in your brain on an app or on social media, and you're triggered. Let me make that call. Let me give them that money. Let me buy that piece of real estate. Let me donate to these people. When, in fact, if you would just take a moment, understanding who you are, what your body is, at the most basic level, when we make decisions, we're moving into logic, reason, and understanding, because everything is in the framework of understanding. So you have logic. Your brain does compute in a logical way if you require it to and practice doing it. Reason is what is reasonable is something that is in the brain that can be discerned, what will support you. And then the bigger idea of understanding your circumstances, what works on a island in the Pacific may not work in a restaurant in Chicago.
Sure.
So that's this idea of understanding. But as you practice it and as you hone it, as you recognize who and what you are, then the decision making can be clearer. So we're going to be teaching a class. I'm going to teach a class in September 3 classes once a week for 3 weeks in the September time on the process, on the idea and the elevation and matriculation of being able to acquire the appropriate answers from your own intelligence, where you don't have to go outside of yourself. So we are not looking at systems where you go to an authority outside of you to tell you what you need to do, that there should be an inner knowingness. And all of us have had those moments where it's like, no, I don't want to eat those green beans. You know, you know, like, no, I can't, I don't have the teeth. Can't digest that, mommy. I don't want that. You know, we've all had the moment where we can reject what doesn't work. And we know, having worked with, as a healer with allergies, that when something comes into a person's field that's not for them, they feel it. They're aware of it if they have been sensitized to do so. So they're like, no, I can't eat that. I can't tell you why, but there's something in that doesn't agree with me. And I can feel it before I can feel it from looking at the name of it on the menu. That's a real reality. That's documented and true. This is how many people are able to discern that, because they've been hyper motivated through the uncomfortability of allergies. So many people feel things that way, and that is their discerning process. That is their way of checking. Like, oh, I'm checking with my body and I don't think so, you know, or even sitting in a chair and sitting in a wrong person's chair and like, oh, I don't think this is the right chair for me to sit in. You know, I don't think I want to drink that water. I don't think you're the right one for me. You know, I'm feeling itchy.
So I kind of want to go back a little bit. You mentioned that inherent within everyone's body is this idea of truth, because the body is established in truth. It's not a Mattel baby doll.
Right.
It's not inorganic. It's real living technology that can discern truth and falsehood, strong stimulus that promotes life, or a weak stimulus that promotes anti-life. And so it makes me think about how I've had experiences where I've recognized that, man, I always knew what was up, but there would be something else that would overshadow or dominate this inner voice of navigating life. And so this takes me to my next idea. You mentioned that there are things out here, or forces that humans are influenced by, that's dictating and influencing our decision-making process, from the advertisements, etc., that creates this compulsion, and we just automatically click, add to cart, buy. You know, I think on Amazon, they got the one click. You don't have to add it to your cart. It's just boom, click, your car's info in there. You don't got to think about nothing else. And they make it so easy. But what was coming to mind was that it's a form of mind control. It's a form of influence where these forces are designed to override our own will. And this, for me, and what I see with humanity, is definitely a great reason, because you keep doing impulsive buying, next thing you know, you're broke because of all the different outside forces that's influencing the behavior.
Absolutely. Not only have we been studied, and so that our brains can be captured and we can be manipulated to do things in marketing, you know, not only that, but there's also the idea that we haven't really been taught to take a moment and check with ourselves. Is this the right thing? It's not, at this point, it's not more complicated than seeing the reason, the need to check. Just having that is an expansion.
Yes.
That will give you pause. You know, when you drive by a fast food restaurant and you're hungry and you pull in and then you're in there, you could take a moment. Like, is this what I really want to do? Is this what I would like to put into my experience? Or can I wait till I get home? Or, you know, can I get something that would be more supportive of me or more supportive for my children? It's just this idea. It's not about judgment. It's about you individually choosing the highest expression of your experience at any given moment, from your own intelligence, your own history, your own logic, your own reason, your own understanding. we're encouraging this because in this time of so much propaganda, you could easily be puppeted and manipulated and through parasitic influences.
Ooh, that you taking it places. So this is bringing to mind another aspect of this. So I love how you shared why we're doing this. We're doing this because we want to make the choice that will expand us.
Yes.
We're going to have satisfaction from this choice.
Right.
We're not going to look back and like, oh, I should never eat that.
Right.
Blue, 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 blue. Right? And then I'm thinking about the people who do not want to check, just like the client who's, why are you doing that? Why, because it's almost like some infringement on the idea of free will. And that might even be
That's
worth
exactly,
discussing because
yes.
we feel like we're so free and like there's a level of restrictiveness if I check with my guidance on whether or not I should do this thing.
Yes.
So I'm not free.
Yes.
What's up with that?
The implication is that you're trying to make me check, but I already know.
Oh,
So the idea that is like telling you to check with yourself is a manipulation to steal from you your right to choose whatever's in your mind. That's the implication of that kind of a comment. The reality is that give yourself a minute of your own time and thought. The idea is not to give authority outside of you. The idea is to give yourself the authority through your own powers of logic, reasoning, and understanding, and your own memory of what has happened before. In the business I'm in of talking to people, I often see them repeat over and over and over again the exact same experience, not recognizing that but had they looked at it and said, oh, not only does this person have the same letter at the beginning of their name, they're the same age as that person who really I had a very uncomfortable experience with. Maybe I'm getting a sign. Maybe I should just take a moment and assess my own memory and see, should I move forward or should I pause and explore this a little deeper? The implication that something that you would do for yourself to improve your own experience, that then becomes the enslavement, is the opposite. That this can free you because it's just between you and you. It's between you and your body, you and your brain, you and your reason, you and your logic, you and your memory. And we're saying, allow yourself to have this experience. The other thing that was being said is that I'm an empath, I already know. That's another part of what was being said, is that I already have information. I'm not confused by anything. I already have a clear path, and only flowers and diamonds will drop in my, like there won't be any reason for me to check anything because I have developed my life that way. So there is that.
There's so much to flesh out with this. We'll start with the empath thing. So I have heard people say being empathic is both the gift and the curse. And what I have seen is that humans are often not quite operating at a level of self-mastery to discern the frequencies and the information that their body's intelligence is processing from the field. And so there could even be overlay on what's being perceived through the information through the field or the feelings of the empath. So I see what I'm going to call a flaw due to the lack of acknowledgement of just in general growth. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but I do see that most people who are, I'm empathic, don't quite have control nor level of understanding of what they're really interpreting. So there could be some possible mix-up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'd like to speak to that, and then the third reason that I saw. So the idea that a person thinks they're at the evolutionary pinnacle of their development, so that that isn't necessary. That every action has its own reward. So that has its own reward.
Like, well, how your life looking?
Yeah, so it has its own reward. And that's really up to a person to discern. The third thing that I see in this is that people often don't want to check because they want to do the thing.
And that's what my second thing was. I was like, there's just people who just want what's not good for them.
And that's okay. They have the right to do that. And we're not trying to interfere with them. We're just saying, if you want to do better, take a moment and let your logic, reason, understanding, and memory come in. We are not trying to offend you by saying you have an option to discern and to check what you're going to do. So that Pepsi Cola that you've been drinking your whole life and that your mother drank and that 17 teaspoons of sugar that's in there, if you want that, you don't have to check because you already know what that is and you've already decided that's what you want. And we're not in your consciousness or your brain or to interfere with that, so you don't have to throw up a barrier that you're trying to make me not have the things that people say are not good for me. And like, we're not. Vibration. We are a universal remedy of support, an ally infused with positive frequencies and biophotonic light particles intended to return one to the greater whole of one's organic nature. Within our layered structure exists an opportunity for metamorphosis, prompting divine healing energies of light to awaken your original composition, that which has been irritated by inorganic substances through mental, emotional, and physical material. We are navigators, those who operate by way of your conscious thought and directive, exponentially moving to the physical areas of stuck emotion within the body that are in need of restoration. When engaged with us, we identify and mirror the called upon frequencies of lower vibratory notion for it to see itself in transmutation, while awakening that which is dormant to shift into the rectification of optimum balance and functionality. We're saying in other circumstances where you may need life affirming information, take a moment and look at logic, reason, talk to your body, recognize that you have the ability, that we all are gifted, and that we have to develop the gifts through repetition. And that is something that can happen if you begin the process of knowing, I think I want to use logic and reason as relates to my sheets. From now on, I'm going to see if I'm sleeping on the right sheet. I'm not ready to talk about my food, but I'm going to talk about my pillowcases. I'm going to talk about my pillows. I'm ready to do that.
Switch from that polyester blend to cotton, linen.
So that if you're breathing in plastic all night long, and you got phthalates in your blood, you might want to think about let me read this label. Let me think about this for a minute instead of just pushing the buy button and send because it costs the price that you want to pay. Sometimes there's more value in taking a moment and not impulsively moving out for the pleasure center to give you a pleasure that might not even be recognizable if you withdrew it. The person who is addicted to something, that pleasure center lights up, but after they're no longer addicted, it doesn't. So what looks good to you now, that hot dog and that bun and all that sweet relish and all the ketchup, all that looks good to you now. But if you stop eating hot dogs, the smell of it might make you sick. So that's what I'm saying.
So this brings up, like I said, many different thoughts. And again, going back to this why, but even behind that, this idea of humans, we were born into a world where I think many of us, especially those on the spiritual path, feel like we didn't have a strategy guide or how to be a human 101 type of manual. And these processes and the conversation at length is showing that there are a myriad of different ways of checking, which this will be in her classes that she's going to be teaching, like several different ways that your body can discern. And like many of them we're already doing, like the food, like that just don't feel right. Matter of fact, I was speaking to a young lady, and she often says, I don't feel anything. But there was an event that happened, and she said, I just knew. And I said, did you feel anything? She's like, no, but like, I just knew that wasn't correct. And I said, so that's a form of discernment, like the inner knowingness that may come in. But again, it's something that's in us. We all have it. And again, I kind of want to build a picture of what I was seeing when you were speaking, where like, what is this doing when we're discerning, and what's the whole point? And it's showing me that humanity's experience can be so much better than what it is. It could be this really, like you set the example of walking through a field of flowers, but again, we'd have to want to do the thing, which may challenge things that we're attached to, like the addictions and the overstimulation of the pleasure center, and kind of getting a handle on that. You got some thoughts on this?
Yes. A couple of things. The idea that the why, the reason we need to consider each thing is out of consideration for honor, respect, and gratitude for self. Don't you deserve to be considered? If you don't consider yourself first, you don't consider what you eat, what you wear, what you do, who will?
True.
So you build up this field of, I'm choosing the best for me. And eventually you have a morphic field around you that chooses the best for you. It's a matter of relentlessly pursuing what is in your best and highest interest, what thoughts you want to have, what thoughts you don't want to have. And you build that. And the epitome of that is that when we do that, help is available for us. When we make a decision, when we sit quietly and we make a decision in our best and highest interest, the ancestors, the angels, the guides all come in to support our decision. So if we don't make a decision, or if we make a decision that's not in our best interest, thankfully, there's not a group of people coming in to support us in that. But we do know, and it may be, in fact. But,
right, like demons and entities, right? Like, yeah, do that thing that you're not supposed to be doing. You want to do it.
So that's the depiction of the little devil on the shoulder,
Yes.
or the angel on the other shoulder. That's humanity has always depicted that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like something whispering in your ear, something tweaking in your brain, somebody who studied sociology and brain development who tweaked the thing in your brain that said click and buy, like that you will follow instructions. So they're giving you instructions, or so it says 99 because the brain understands 99 as less than the next whole number up. All of these are things that have been studied about humans. They're being used against us, not in our best and highest interest. But if we have chosen, if our modus operandi, if we operate from the energy of, I want the best and the highest experience for myself, and I will start with myself. And then others who come into my experience will resonate with the same energy that supports me in my highest and best interest. And then all of the things around me will start supporting me in my highest and best interest, because that's now my morphic field. But it's not something you do once or twice and then it's over. And it's something that has to be developed. I also wanted to mention that the idea of her saying she doesn't feel anything, but she knows, that knowingness is gold. When you get to the point where it doesn't matter how many things you know, but if you have an experience where you see something, you're like, oh, I know what that is. No, I don't want that. That is to be honored.
Yes.
That is to be honored. That is not to be overlooked. That's not like, how you doing? And they say fine, and then you never think about it again. That's like, oh, I knew.
Yeah.
I knew something. That's the supporting who you are. And when you say, I know that, so I'm choosing not to go that way, then everything that supports you comes in and says, that's right, we got you. You're choosing life, and we are all about life. We're all about your honor, your respect, and your gratitude that you can give yourself for having chosen that. Now, all of us are greater. The ancestors are greater. The DNA is greater. The living DNA in me now affects my grandmother. Now she's greater.
So just chiming back in on this idea of honor, respect, and gratitude. And you were sharing how we often want that from people, right? And it all starts with self. And one of the ways we can do that is honoring self through checking what we're investing our energy in, because what we broadcast out will come back to us.
Right.
And either it will be satisfying or unpleasant. And that could look like relationships.
Or neutral, it'll be nothing when you're just having a life with.
True, yeah. So we have that as well. And what you were sharing through the example, it made me think about how our choices ripple out and affect others.
Yes.
Because you mentioned something about, and I don't know if you said this or if my mind went there, but the best and highest interest for all concerned. Like the choice I'm making, I want to make the choice that's going to serve not just me, but all parties. And
Right.
this kind of goes back to the previous podcast when I was asking you, you know how people say, who do you think you are? You're like, I'm an emissary of all that is. I'm all, and because you recognize that you're not separate, so your
Right.
actions impact others.
Right.
Would you speak a little bit more about how our choices ripple out and the consideration that's
I
required?
love this topic because in the third dimension, we give so much homage to crystals. We give so much homage to professional people. We give so much homage to those who present themselves to assist us. However, we often make ourselves smaller to make sure that they're bigger. And that doesn't work in any logic, reason, or understanding equation. That just because you're bigger doesn't mean I'm smaller, but that is kind of the way things work. So the idea of making sure that we give ourselves every opportunity for expansion and growth and development through our own honor and respect for ourselves. And I recognize that most of us have not been trained that way, but there's no reason why we cannot be. Just because it never happened doesn't mean it never will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just because your mother didn't do it doesn't mean you can't do it. You know, just because the person you were married to didn't do it doesn't mean that you can't choose to be that way. So there's this whole morphic field of sit down quietly, meditate, think about it, bring up your logic, your reason, your understanding, and is your life valuable and worthy of living in the same way that you give homage to others? Don't you deserve to give homage to self? We somehow think that it's sacrilege to praise ourselves or to have reverence for ourselves, when in fact it's the opposite. It is relevant that we are as the crystals are. We are carbon, we're the diamonds. We're what the crystals are made of. We resonate all the time creating what we want to have, but we're thinking, oh, I'm gonna let that crystal do it for me, but we are the crystal.
Yes.
Not only are we the crystal, the food is the crystal. So the celery, the cabbage, the beans, whatever you're eating, also, if it is organic and has been untampered with, will resonate with the same frequencies of creation and life in the same morphic field, that they become an antioxidant. They become anti things that are death. They become life. So everything moves towards life, including us. And we have not put ourselves in the equation. We think, I need that crystal gourd. You know, I need that because that's going to protect me. But it's not that, no disrespect to the crystals, but we are also crystals. Our food is also crystals. We are broadcasting who we are every second of every moment of every day. So giving over our decision making, like that stone is going to make all the right decisions to keep me protected. It doesn't really work like that.
No.
You know, so the idea would be to honor self as an aspect of creation that deserves your own reverence, as you honor people who wear white coats or people who are Indian chiefs, doctors, lawyers, whatever they are. Honor self. and honor your own decisions, and look at the history, look at the memory, look at the logic, look at the reason, look at the understanding of who you are in every given situation. Give yourself a moment to see if you are being propagandized, to see if you got fake news, to see if you're being presented with something that will take you to the wrong place in your health, in your beauty, in your attitude about yourself, in all ways. So,
yeah, this is making me think about how, well, several different thoughts. One, an opportunity for humans to really embrace who and what we really are, take back our power. We've spoke at length on many different podcasts of how we are trained and conditioned to give it away to outside beings, like you say, white coats, different deities, etc. The crystals.
Don't forget iPhone. We like to give
Yeah.
iPhone to
Like,
iPhone. Will you go and block this person? And Siri, will you be the sentry that keeps that person? And you all, I don't want to hear from them no more.
yeah. Or you as the crystal could just turn your awareness away and stop animating that other aspect of consciousness. This is a real tool, but we got to know that we can do these things. Yes. And I think a lot of the different examples you gave are very like simple entry level ways, because maybe a person may not want to stop eating a certain way, but they might have a little more consideration about what they're putting on their bodies or the makeup or something. It just varies.
We're not looking to dictate to anyone what you should do or what you shouldn't do. We live the life we want to live. We're encouraging you to live the life you want to live. But the process of logic, reason, and understanding came with you. It's in you. We have not been cultivated to use it. We're really merely recommending that you use your ability to make the right decisions for the health and well-being of all of humanity. Because we are like, and this is what you were getting to, we are like a stone thrown into a pond that ripples out, that affects everything through time and space and each other. So every good decision you make is a good decision for me. So it doesn't mean it has to be the same decision, but if it supports you and it supports life, it supports me through its rippling effect. So yes. This is good for all of us. And also the idea that be sovereign, make your own decisions. Don't allow others to make your decisions for you. So there is all of that in this mix.
Yes, this definitely supports the overall idea that the planet's going into to become sovereign. And yes. This is, again, a very simple way, and there's so many layers to how we can do it. You ready to do Call for the Truth?
Yes. So Tarvars has the magical Call for the Truth deck of cards, and he's going to shuffle them and ask a question, which he'll tell us about, then pull a card for today's podcast session. And remember, I will be teaching a class. You can reach the Of the Sun office and find out more details about the class. It will be on the idea of calibration, deciding, learning how to use calibration. There'll be 3 classes during the month of September on 3 different scheduled days. And you can follow up at our office. And the number is, what's the number of our office?
We'll post it in the description.
Okay.
Make sure it's in bold for you.
Thank you. And, you got cards trying to jump out of the deck?
I'm using my discernment to pull. I'm feeling the information.
Okay.
This is so simple, but it is so the truth. No pun intended. This is a triple entendre. The card theme is truth. Call for the truth so that you may be free. It's making me think about, again, what we were saying earlier. Some of our actions are influenced and based upon a lie, something that doesn't support us. And this is actually something I wanted to ask you earlier, if you would speak on the idea of how energy hygiene can help with greater discernment. And I feel like this kind of ties into it.
It does.
With
I'll
incorporating.
talk about it.
Yeah, just a little bit before we close out.
So I'd like to say this is a brilliant card. It reads, call for the truth so that you may be free. So this is what we just spoke about is how you get to the truth of your experience in any given moment. You're calling for the truth. I want to also encourage everyone We're in the time of the timeline split to call for life 7 minutes every day, or every time you can think of it. Call for life. There are many things happening. There is no downside to life. And how that relates to this and energy hygiene is that the truth is what has always been and what will always be. That is life. Call for life, which is truth, which will clean you and clear you. So thank you. We are so happy that you joined us. We hope that you will come back and see us again. We leave you with the greetings of In Lakesh, oneness and truth and honor, respect and gratitude. Thank you.